sacred, divine sacred, divine sacred feminine. We are the 18 of the Rendezvous Orgasmic Conversation. Remember that if you have the calling, if you feel a pull to this resonance, you are invited to join our Mystical Entrepreneur Tribe on Facebook. Just look for the Mystical Entrepreneur, and I will see you there and talk to you there for today's moment in time and now. This is an incredible vibration that I am a little selfish here. I like to just gather everything up into into my body, my heart, my soul. We have an incredible guest, an enlightened soul is with us today from the UK. Wow, across the ocean. She's bringing her light, her wisdom, her passion, her mission. Let me tell you about this incredible light being. She is Rhian. She's an exclusive and one of the kind. Love this, watch it. Love Alchemist from Cornwall, the UK. She helps soulful women heal from trauma. It's like food, right? Food for the soul. Abuse and heartache, and shows them how to manifest real love and embrace their life mission as a spiritual entrepreneur, healer, and creative. She combines her solid background as a psychodynamic sex and relationship. Yes, I emphasize. Therapist and urban Tantra professional with her passion for all things mind, body, soul, including sound healing and gem therapy, breath work, Kundalini energy, and Vedic Astrology. Welcome, namaste, Rhian Kivits, my beautiful sister. I love you so much. How are you from the UK?
Oh, I am so good. Thank you so much for having me here. It's such an honor to be a guest. I can't tell you how my heart just leapt when you invited me on the show. Thank you.
I think you and I should have our own show, just so because.
Oh, I think we should. I think we should.
Girl, this is what you need to understand. If you're watching this show, this is how we work when we are outside of the vacuum of the third dimensional linear reality, right? So this is how we work, and how Rhian also works this way. So when once upon a time, I was just, fooling around, watching Facebook posts and why not, and this image of this young lady shows up in my field of awareness. Now, I didn't have to see her title. I didn't even know her name. I just saw her. Literally, I saw her light. My body was drenched. I was like, okay, energetic orgasm, right? So I'm thinking, who is this? Still doesn't know her until yesterday, because I'm looking at her bio and I finally understand what she does, which for me it's perfectly fine, because now what? Well, the Love Alchemist, the mystical entrepreneur, is matching our orgasmic conversation. See how the universe brings you the gift and the true presence of those being in your life. Those are the divine gift, not the money, not the stuff around you. Those light being in your life, and she is in your life right now. So let's get orgasmic. What it is that brought you into a reality of becoming the Love Alchemist from the science background that you have? Tell me more.
Where to start? So, you know,
Anywhere you
I think, yeah, I think sometimes, I believe that sometimes we are broken just so that we can rise and heal. And so really what's brought me to where I am today is that journey of pain to power, I suppose you could call it, because I grew up with a very toxic, very abusive mother. And that childhood experience broke me and put me in a place where I was just magnetizing abusive relationships, one after the other, after the other. And that took me to a place where it was rise or break, right? And I had a spiritual awakening because I knew that if I didn't take my power and go within, and whilst I know that abuse is never excused, I wanted to choose not to be a match for that any longer. And that was what catapulted me onto my journey of healing. And my journey of healing took me on a roller coaster. I mean, it took me across the world to Egypt. It took me to transform my life and live in Glastonbury for many years, the land of the goddess, to explore the divine feminine, and to go down this pathway of finding out how to heal myself as a woman, as a divine feminine woman. And so that was why I trained as a sex and relationship therapist. That was why initially I became a Reiki master, and then explored, many, many modalities of healing and therapy. And, it's like a rabbit hole. The deeper you go into it, the more magic you discover. And the deeper you go within, the more profound that realm is, And so I suppose that's what brought me to where I am today. Because what I realize is that the reason I'm here on this planet is to live from a paradigm of love in every way, in my work, in my relationships, in my very being. The paradigm is love. And it's work. It's a practice.
So beautiful. I'm going to hold this for just a moment because it takes a moment to gradually make this impact and just kind of let it sit, let it set there. So it's a great, beautiful, such a pure transmission. The message that you share is such at a soul level that is so clear, so transparent, so profound, yet beyond the mind, beyond the thoughts, beyond all the things that we as humans try so hard to hide behind the mask of those programming. When we get out of those programs and we realize who we are, where we are from, who we are at the seat of consciousness prior to consciousness, and now you, Rhian, have found that inner star to guide you. Now let me ask you, for those who are watching and those who are hearing the ringing bell, as I say always, it's like, are you hearing her? Are you hearing the ringing bell? Are you officially on the path so you can hear the wisdom, grasp it, feed with it, fill up your cup today with Rhian's wisdom? Because if you are on a path and you are hearing her message, you will just be in the place of awareness without doing anything at all. Just by listening to her words that are filled with light and divine sacredness. One question that might help our audience. You know how you and I, everyone who's on a path were born. We have the traumas. Those are the upgrade to your awakening process. Those are not done to you, they're done for you. Obviously, now you understand this process of healing and how you are seeking your purpose, not to seek at the end of that day. But it starts with a seeking, correct? So was it an event in your life, one particular, and maybe not, just a question, that you felt that was a major, not an awakening per se yet, but you had this moment, you opened that door, perhaps someone talked to you, perhaps it's a mentor, perhaps it's a book, whatever that is for you, share with us what that is. And then how did you connect to that place of higher consciousness so you could get the confidence to thrive through it while you are going through it? You know what I'm saying? So because a lot of time an awakening is not like, oh, I get up and light it. Now, it happens that way too. In fact, it does happen. But a lot of people is gradual and they need the guidance. So what would you say the tool, the guidance that got you to open that door and to commit, to keep into the path of taking action towards your self-awareness?
Wow, that's an important question. And, for me, there was an awakening, literally an awakening, but I know what catalyzed it. So I had a very beautiful friend, and she had been, we lived about 30 miles from London at the time, and she had been visiting Glastonbury for many, many years. And she kept saying to me, I want to take you one weekend to this incredible place. You're going to love it. I don't know if you've been there, Juju. It's an incredible place. Right.
I'll be going soon. So.
Yeah. She kept saying to me, I want to take you. I want you to experience this place. You're going to love it. It's the land of the goddess. The land is alive. The land is magical. And she told me about, Glastonbury Tor and the legends of Avalon and the goddess. And, I was inspired. And at the time, I was living this very, very disconnected life. I was in this abusive marriage. I was not doing work that fulfilled me. I was distracting myself with, habits that were not very conscious at the time, right? I didn't understand how to look after my body, how to eat well, how to care for myself. And so the opportunity to go away for a weekend with this beautiful friend of mine came up, and I said, okay, I'll go. Let's go for a weekend. So she took me to this wonderful place, and we just walked the land. We walked up Glastonbury Tor. We visited a place called Bridie's Mound. It's just a piece of land, right? But there was something about being in this bubble that how do I put it? The energy was just magical. And I believe there was an activation, and it woke something up within me at that point. Now, I enjoyed my weekend with her. We visited the crystal shops and the goddess temple, and we soaked up the vibes like tourists, and we went back home. And then a few weeks later, I was laying in the bed next to my husband one morning, and I woke up and I said to him, I'm going to move to Glastonbury. And he just looked at me and he said, oh no, you're not, because he was used to being in charge, and there was no way that he wanted to do anything like that. And he kind of thought, there we go, she's crazy. But I'm telling you, at that point, I had an awakening, and I knew that I had to put myself in the energy of that land. I mean, it's very seductive, beautiful shops, and it's a new age town, right? But I wanted to be in the energy of that land. And Juju, 4 weeks later, I moved into my home in Glastonbury. 4 weeks from that moment, because there was just this surge of power within me, this feeling of what I would call now feminine flow. I had to go. And so I made it happen. And it went from there. So what I'm saying is that I was ready and ripe for an awakening, but what woke me up was the energy of the land in that place, in that town.
Wow.
It was an activation.
So glad. I am so glad that I intuitively called that question, because the answer you give is the totality of why you're doing what you're doing today, and the totality and the immensity of your purpose on this Gaia, on Earth. Now, if you're watching this, you can see how she was able to pick up on the idea of saying, hey, this feels good to my soul, and I need to listen to this feeling, even though it doesn't make any sense at all. It doesn't, because we were not taught to have sense when it comes to intuition. We are taught to listen to your head space and to your logical reasons, that in fact, a lot of people today are so miserable because of that. You know what I'm saying? And she was able to get out of that linear state of consciousness, and the courage that it takes for you to have done that. I can imagine being entrapped into a severe, bad, or horrible relationship and having the courage to listen to your heart at that moment. How did that feel to you when you told yourself, that's it, my choice is done, and I am leaving, and this is where I'm going? How did that, I mean, I can just imagine, I mean, how did that feel? To have to leave a situation so you could be liberated?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually like a new version of yourself appears when there is an activation like this. Have you heard of people who call themselves walk-ins? You know, people who say that it's been like the shedding of a skin and a complete new being is inside. That's how I would explain it. Because all of a sudden, it's like the third eye is activated and you have a vision of all these possibilities that lie ahead of you. And you see that actually you are the creator of your own reality in a magical way, but also in a not so magical way, because we just have to choose it. You know, the magic is in many ways a paradox to me. We only call it magic because we don't know how it works. And then when we experience and we go, yeah, that works. Of course, it's not really magic, but it still feels like magic. It's just how the universe works. I was activated by that land. And I don't believe that, you know, you have to go to some kind of special site to be activated. You can just walk in nature and breathe and feel the connection that you have with, you know, everything, the trees, the plants, the flowers, the sky, the cosmos. And you can experience an activation that unleashes a part of you. But then what you have to do is accept it. And then what you have to do is follow it through.
Because the acceptance part is the relationship with your higher self, with something that is so profound and yet simple, the basics of you being in the pure natural state of who you are naturally without doing anything, right? But somehow it seems so difficult to get there. Why is that? Why is it so difficult to get there? This awakening, this enlightenment, once you know that you already been there all along. Can you share? Why
Well,
do we have such a
I
hard
think,
time getting there?
yeah, I mean, the resistance is huge because the conscious mind starts to kick in, and all the self-doubt comes in, and the logic, the rationale around all of this. The conscious mind tells you all these reasons why it's not possible, and you shouldn't. All this doubt comes in, and the conscious mind will always look for reasons to limit you, because the conscious mind is trying to keep you safe and keep you familiar. But of course, when you receive an invitation, an irresistible invitation to free and liberate yourself and step into a version of you that is more powerful and more self-expressed and more in purpose, you have to drop that resistance and drop into surrender, so that you can integrate that upgrade and allow yourself to flow into your next level of being. And so for me, the experience of choosing to immerse myself in that energy of that place at that time was what opened me up and invited me to choose surrender. Does that make sense?
Oh, if that does, it doesn't even make sense. It's the truth. And there is no making sense around the truth. When the truth speaks through your language of the soul, through this ignited self that you are, this beam of light, it only makes sense. It only makes sense. It doesn't make sense when you are projecting the old belief to your unconscious state of being, and you're distracted from the things that are not yourself. But once you break through those fear or were illusions of the mind and disease of the minds in the first place, doesn't even exist, then you accept, surrender, allow. So now tell us more about, once you surrender, this is the piece that I've been asked a lot. It's, what do you do once you surrender? Surrendering, does it mean, that is one of the questions that I get. Does it mean then, Rhian, that we don't do anything? Does it mean that we just, sit around? Does it mean that we just meditate all day, and drink tea, So what does it mean, the surrender piece? Because I feel like it needs an explanation at least. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you. But, as an English person, a cup of tea first is a good idea.
So as a gypsy, the Moroccan mint tea is an enlightened experience. I promise it is.
Delicious.
You know it. Yes.
I do. So look, that was a joke. The tea is optional.
It may be optional, but you know what? It's also those things that tools are helping you along the way. And so this is what it brings me to you to say, what's next in a state of surrendering? Is it that you have to take action, or surrendering mean that you have to be lazy and just watch it happen?
Not to be lazy. Not to be lazy. Your body is a compass, right? Your body will tell you where to go. Your body will tell you whether the choice you are making is aligned or misaligned. So when you surrender, perhaps you drop into a more mindful state, perhaps you slow down, but you're doing that in order to listen to those deep messages that come through your body, from your soul, from the realm of higher self, and you choose to follow in flow. In fact, you could say you choose to dance, because what you're doing is you're actually following joy in that moment. And that's how you surrender. You follow the joy. So you are taking action.
You are taking action. Give us an example of your dance and what you did to keep surrendering. So now what you're experiencing is that you are the creator and you are manifesting from that place of experience that you are literally creating within, and it's being manifested now in the physical outside of yourself. Because that's a catch-22. A lot of people are talking about, the secret and the manifestation, and a lot of people are doing so much of it that they get so much resistance, universal resistance, because of a lack of, instead of knowing that it's already been there and it's there. So tell us, should you tell us, is there tools or techniques or things that you could share for those who are watching, who are in that state of surrendering, now what, and taking that step further and that action that is in alignment?
Well, presence is, of course, a very simple tool, a very simple technique that helps you stay in alignment. Because actually, it's okay to say, I do not know exactly where this is taking me, but I can feel where this is taking me. Right?
So beautiful.
Have you ever felt like that? You can just feel that something is right for you, even though you may not be able to see the bigger picture vision of exactly how it will be.
Have you ever felt that way? It's as simple when you see your baby being born for the first time. I take that literally, because that way there is an experience that you can grasp. If you had this experience in your life where you had the birth of your first baby, for instance, this experience, there is no words, and we call it, again, to make it into a format, a concept of unconditional love, which is not a concept, but to make it okay. Do you know, this is just this type of experience that she's saying, she's explaining to us, that have you felt this? And I'm taking that when you had that first child, for instance, that just popped out fresh and was mixed of the blood and the sacred feminine that comes with this, that's what she's talking about. Have you felt this? Of course you have felt this, because it was so conscious, and at that moment you experienced ecstasy, you experienced tantrika, you experienced the Love Alchemist, you had that. So can you go back to that moment and have other moments, right? This juice of life, this ecstasy of life, that's always there. Isn't this what you're talking about?
Well, it's the vitality. It's the vitality. It's the feeling of pure joy that is expanding and spiraling, so that the spiral is becoming bigger and wider. And that is the flow that you're following, even though it may not make sense. You do not know exactly what the future holds, but you trust. Because how can it be anything but perfect and wonderful when it feels so good? I want to tell you a story, Juju, about when I met my husband, Renz.
Yes.
So I'd never met Renz physically. He was in Holland, and he was organizing a Crystal Skull conference. And in those days, I was a speaker and a guardian of many crystal skulls, ancient ones, modern ones, and it was a passion of mine. It still is a passion of mine.
Yes.
And he invited me to come as a speaker to this conference. And so we would talk online about the arrangements for the conference and, you know, when my flight was arriving and what my speech would involve and this kind of thing. And then one time we spoke and he said, "So what are you doing after the conference?" And I said, "Well, I've arranged to stay in Holland for a week or so because I've never been to Holland and I want to see what it's like. I've heard such good things about Holland." And he said to me, "Well, how would you feel about coming away with me to a little island at the north of Holland and stay in a little cottage for the rest of your trip?" And at that moment, I could feel it, that same feeling of like, I'm feeling the bliss within here. And
Love Alchemist.
I'd never met this man physically in real life. So, you know, all the advice anybody would give you would be, do not arrange to go on holiday and stay in a house with a strange man you've never met.
That's right.
For a week in a country you've never been to before. But I followed said yes, and because I could feel this man. And so I did the conference. We stayed in the cottage together for the 5 nights, and by the end of it, we knew he was my twin flame. We knew.
So beautiful.
And within about 6 to 8 weeks of that, he had packed his stuff and he had moved to England to be with me.
Incredible.
And he's still with me now.
Incredible.
We got married on the 31st of December 2011. On the verge of 2012. And then we had a hand fasting in Glastonbury on the March equinox 2012. So special. But this was, we both did it. We both followed the bliss. We both felt it. We dropped our resistance and we allowed our feelings to just guide us to where we were supposed to be.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And having a twin flame, you know, this is very rare because, I mean, you know, it's very rare. It's just doesn't happen for everyone, you know. It could, I'm assuming perhaps it could happen, right? I think it goes back to your work as far as dropping the old self so you don't match what's the whole old self is hanging on to. You no longer match that, but the work has been done for you. This is the reason where you were so much space to attract that being in your life, right? Isn't it the evidence of your work? Isn't it where it took you? So literally you are being guided from a soul perspective. There is no other way. So it is difficult for most people to wrap their brain around the idea that once you accept the nonsense, you know, the noise, and you get into the other place that is home, it's very difficult for most people to envision this because, like, for instance, you and I, in our tribe and most of our people around us, we operate from a higher state of consciousness and we manifest things in our reality that are and very unusual, especially with what's going on in the world. I've never been more happier now than ever. Even though there is this crisis in the world, right? So could you expand upon, it is real that we can activate ourselves to who we really are, this higher grid, this instrument of love. So you're no longer a victim or a slave to this lower, part of the matrix. It's something that's so hard to grasp for most people. They're like, why are you so happy? I get this. Why are you getting all, the job, the events, you speak, you do this, you do that. Why is this happening for you? What would you say to these people?
I would say that I chose it. I'm a match for it.
Got it.
You are also a match for it. We can all be a match for it, but we must choose it and believe it and feel it. And I use the phrase, we must do our work. And it's for me, it's a non-negotiable that I will do my inner work, I will do my spiritual work, I will fulfill my highest destiny, I will make my contribution in the world. And so I choose this every day of my life, and I measure up opportunities and choices against that set of standards and expectations that I hold there for myself, which is my paradigm of love, right? And my paradigm of love is not exclusive to me because I'm some kind of queen or something. It's something that I choose, and you can have one too, and everybody can have it. We just have to choose it.
We just have to choose it. I know it sounds easy to say, but it is that easy if we have the courage to not understand it, but really she said, you feel it, right? You feel it, and you change your belief, that changes your reality, but you must start feeling different. And for her, it took that she went to this magical place, if you will, where it was the evidence she created. She opened that door when she went to that place, and her intuition took her there. What is the importance of listening to your intuition today in our world, and especially in business?
Oh, wow. I mean.
I know, I just want to play. I just because that, because it's so, you understand why I'm asking that question.
It's everything. It's everything. If something feels good to you, it's a yes. When you invited me to come and talk with you today as a guest, I was filled with bliss and I said yes. When I create an offer, at the moment I'm creating offers in my business because I've had a rebrand and a bit of a break, and I'm asking myself as I create those offers, do these really feel exciting to me? Am I filled with bliss at the thought of serving these women in this way and delivering this program? And what's going to bring me joy? I'm going to tell you another story.
Please.
When I was a teenager, I was picked to train as an opera singer, but I would not do it. I had no confidence. I thought I was ugly on stage. I had no faith in myself. I had zero in the self-love stakes, right? And so I said no, and I stopped singing. And then last year, I decided that it was time for my voice to be free. And so I've been a sound healer for many years. I work with the crystal bowls and the chimes, and you know, I love the high vibration, and yet my voice was not free. I was not using my voice in my sound healing. And so I just created an opportunity for myself to use my voice. And in one of the programs I ran, I decided that I would do some drumming and I would do some singing and some chanting. And you know what? The women in that program loved it. I felt so enthused that I then decided to launch another little group, which I launched. And now, twice a month, I actually get paid to sing healing songs and mantras to these beautiful women. And they show up and they listen to the replays many times, and my voice is free, right? But you see, the point is that it was my highest joy to use my voice and to sing. And so whilst I'm a therapist and I can run courses and, you know, I can help people work with their subconscious mind and their conscious mind and process the past, and I can do all these things, it was my highest joy to sing. And so I was brave. I followed my intuition and I said to those women, how about you join a group where we're going to do a teaching and talk about some astrology? And you know what? Then I'm going to sing to you. And they said yes. So do you see what I mean? That's the importance of following your intuition, because if I wasn't following my intuition, I could now be working in an office. I would not be using my voice. I would not be singing and healing. I would not be working with my crystals. I would not be transforming people, right? If I wasn't following my intuition, I would be a mere shadow of myself. But your intuition takes you into your fullness, right? And so in business, why should it be any different to any other area of your life? We got to be in our fullness. That's my feeling anyway, that I have to be in my fullness. Don't you? Yes, you do. Look at you.
I'm having multi-dimensional orgasms for the past hours, so I'm just taking it all in. Thank you for all of the unraveling. It's just incredible. You know, I haven't stopped everything that. Now I know, now I understand why when I first saw your glow, literally I didn't even see your picture, I saw your glow. Now I know the attraction, because it was the resonance that we are riding on. I do all my work through resonance, and I'm not here to talk about me, but I just want to make a point how clear you were about using your voice. And I want to share this because your voice is where you tap into your truth. It's where you start to be born. It's when you are birthing your truth, your power. And so what she described is so important, that if it is for you, perhaps is to dance. For me, is to sing and to use the sound. For her, it's to use the sound. And for others, it's perhaps, you know, to paint. But what she's trying to say to you guys is that this inner being, your true self, will, if you listen, if you're at peace, if you listen to it, it will absolutely guide you to that place and to your alignment, what you're supposed to be at. It's already, you know, you're wired for it. And so can you imagine if you didn't, the world would have a big crack on it. Like, you would steal away. You would steal away from this joy that you're sharing with others today. Your gift would simply be a curse instead, because you would have not have the courage to tap in to this magnificent, multidimensional gifted being that you are.
Yeah.
So thank God that you did.
Yeah, because, you know, I think we always feel those little signs, and we hear those little, you know, the little whispers of our soul within us. And for us women, you know, it's our inner goddess. We hear her speaking to us. Sometimes we hear her crying and we choose to ignore her. Sometimes we hear her banging loudly on the door and we still choose to ignore her. But you know what? She won't be satisfied until she's free. That was my case anyway. And so that means, for me, it is about being in my fullness. And what's my fullness right now might shift and change, and there may be another level of it on its way. But if each day I feel the joy of my fullness bubbling up within me, and I feel that my little inner goddess is happy and smiling and singing and dancing and creating, then I know that I'm on the right path.
Where do we find you? Is there now a program or a gathering or something that you want to share with us to know? Perhaps it is an online tribe for us to follow, or anyone who wants to really get into the Love Alchemist work, which is tremendous, because to me it's the invitation, the opportunity, but also I don't feel like there is an option. If you want to go through this transformation, truly to this transformation, I really feel like there is not an option to go through a guidance of someone like Rhian to get you to open those doors so you can walk and be free in your own accord with your own will of authority, correct? So where do you suppose to go and find you, and what you have going on that we can also share?
Well, you can, of course, join me on Facebook. So I have a personal profile and I have a business page where people can follow me. I have a new Instagram, because actually I was quite excited by the idea of Instagram. So I'm starting up my Instagram, so people can find me there. And I also have some lovely free resources. And there's something I really love to share. It's called the Becoming Bliss meditation. And you can sign up for my free resources and you can access a beautiful ecstatic breath meditation, which is all about you choosing to step into your fullness. And alongside that, you can access a vibrational matching guide, which just talks you through the steps involved in becoming a vibrational match for the life or the love that you desire. And that's totally free. So if people would like that, they can access my free resources. And I can either put the link on Facebook, or you can put the link with the video.
I can tap it right now.
It's a bit.ly link, you know, bit.ly /
So bit.ly
/ free alchemy.
Free alchemy.com.
No, just bit.ly free alchemy.
Okay, I put it in.
Excellent.
And then we'll do another post. I know I have posted all of your basic
Yes.
links with your bio for everyone to know and to get to. And I have
Yes.
Christopher. Hi, Christopher. Is a dear, dear, dear friend of ours, and he's such a beautiful soul, beautiful divine soul. He says, so basically, be like a radio tuning in the right frequency in order to attract that message that is traveling over the air at all times. I love that. Thank you,
It's
Christopher.
it's so true. I
I
love
love
that
that.
analogy. Yes.
I want to
Yes.
keep that.
Yes.
We're gonna make a quote with your picture, Christopher, because this is beautiful. So basically, be like a radio tuning in the right frequency in order to attract that message that is traveling over the air at all times. I love that. It's so simple and so beautiful. You know, it's like the radio, how do you get to the right frequency? That's why she's putting this course and this free access so you can get to that exercise, so you can do the tuning and the how-tos to tune into that frequency. Because, you know, unfortunately, guys, we didn't go to school to learn it, right? We had to we had to learn it later, and some of us unfortunately never get to learn it. But now you don't have an excuse. You have Rhian that is going to open those doors and guide you and teach you how to tune in to that frequency, so it becomes a habit, right? It has to become a habit. And pretty soon, you really don't need to do anything. You just get it, right? Isn't it?
Well, look, the frequency of your soul is really everywhere. It's in the trees, the plants, the flowers, the ocean.
Yes.
It's everywhere. And I would just encourage you, encourage whoever would like to do this, to stand somewhere in nature, to breathe, and just to connect with the frequency of their soul. It's everywhere. It's really not anything elusive.
No.
It's everywhere.
You said it. It's everywhere. Where you go, there you are.
Oh, yes.
And
Yes.
that is so beautiful. You know, it's when you start to discover the purpose within itself, that there is no separation between Ryan and I, between you and I, between us. That it's one soul. It's one field. You know, and we all, you know, sometimes don't match each other, and that's okay. And sometimes we do, but it doesn't mean that we're separated, because we are not separated. Nothing is. So you can talk to the trees and see your soul in the tree, you know, and you are magnificent. Ryan, can I tell you, you are such an enlightened being, and I just could go on and on and on, and I think we need to reconnect at one point and share more, because I know you have more stories. But what you shared today, those principles, with the idea of, hey, surrender but also take action on the path, it's a working progress, right? We are always expanding, always amplifying. And it's like, I love when you say, you know, I love when you say it's a dance. I love that. You went from not dancing to dancing.
Right.
And it's possible. You've done it. It's possible.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm really no different from anybody else. I am no different from anybody else. I simply choose, and I follow bliss.
what's extraordinary for you is that you had those gift of the traumas. Here the trauma that she were able to shift it into the gift,
Mm, mm,
and that you were
mm.
able to really not being the victim, but the victor, the creator of your destiny, that you were able to see the
Right.
trauma as a gift.
Right. And we haven't even touched on Vedic astrology, and I guess that's a whole different conversation.
No, but you
But
could.
when I studied my own natal chart, I will never forget my teacher explaining that there's a particular formation, a particular yoga that shows you may have a very difficult childhood, you may not even survive your childhood, and you may be extremely neglected. You may even go without food. She was explaining all of this. If you have this yoga in your chart, that this is what happens to children who have this yoga in the chart. And I looked at my chart and it was there. So it was encoded from the beginning. It was encoded in the stars that I would go through right from the beginning, this trauma and this pain, but that I would have the opportunity to rise from it. As a Virgo ascendant, of course.
Of course, burn from the ashes and ascend from the ashes, this ascension from, oh, this is so beautiful.
Yeah. So it was inevitable for me to go through, but we have to engage with our Dharma. The invitation is to engage with it and to allow the karma to show us the Dharma. I know that you understand this.
It's like being fed when you speak, to me. It's like I'm being this humble baby and I'm just being fed, truly. I'm trying to,
And the feeling of looking at your chart and seeing your abuse in the chart. I don't know if you've ever had that experience, Juju, yourself, that you've seen something in your chart that's like, wow.
So watch
Right.
this. I have done my chart many times. One
Yeah.
was 10 years old and a very, very powerful light being in Europe, Dr. Dorian. Very powerful, humble, but powerful man, and one of the top astrologists there was, because he transitioned obviously a long time ago. When he did my chart, he was in his 70s. It was cute because when he opened the door, and I was this little thing, 9 years old, and he opened the door, and there's this tall, older gentleman. He looked at me, and he was a medium. So he looked at me, and he looks at my mom, and he told her a couple of things, and that happened to really be true later about my purpose. The first thing he said, this one, she sees everything. She's one. She's a one. And so then he did the chart, and in the charts, few years later, the same chart I did, not with somebody else, an amazing astrologer here in the state. Same thing happened. Now that you mentioned that, you brought me back. This is how powerful it is. My astrologer here in the US called me in the midst of doing my chart. I said, that's strange. He said, I've never done that. I've never called my client in the middle of doing my chart and doing their chart. He said, but I don't know what else to do. And I'm freaking out. I'm like, what the heck? He said, I'm doing your chart, and in the middle of your great line grids, astrological lines, lifelines, there is a complete cut, like it's cut in half, as if you're died and then come back as you are, as you the one that must be. And he says it's very traumatic because this is something that I've never seen before. I see the mark of you dying and then being reborn, which exactly what happened to me anyway.
Wow.
But when you see it and you see the fragment of the trauma before that, before birth, actually,
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about, and you see the genetic portion that's been programmed into you. Do you do charts, or do you have someone do it for you?
Oh, no, I'm a Vedic astrologer. That's one of the services that I offer. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is important for me too, because this is the piece that you might want to really understand, that what she does is very powerful, that you can actually have a professional astrologer that will do your chart, your birth chart. It's a very powerful tool for you to have. It's almost like a no-brainer, right? It's so powerful. So,
well, it's like a map of your destiny. You know, you can see your highest path. You can see your strengths. You can see your you see so much about your life in that chart, and but it's not really about what's going to happen. It's about who you really are and why you are who you are and what that means for your purpose. And I mean, it's incredible. And to look at your own chart, I will never forget that moment of looking at my own chart and listening to my teacher saying, if you have this configuration, you're lucky to be alive because you could have died in childhood. And there's me going, oh wow, yeah. I see it. It's profound.
It is profound. It is profound. It's an awakening within itself. Like if you're on the path, I would say definitely get your chart down. That's such a good point that I never thought about telling people. Because I really, frankly, don't know anybody around me that does it. Now I do. I had no idea you were doing this professionally.
Oh, yeah, I do. And you can do a chart, the chart of your business. So when your business is born, you can do the chart of your business. You can do the chart of a relationship. You can do the chart of any event in your life. If you say you were going to get married, you can do the chart of your marriage by looking at the date and time and place of your marriage, and then you can do the chart of that entity that is your marriage. You know, so it's very, very powerful.
And there's science. It's astrology. It's not woo land. This is astrology. This is a true science, guys. You know well,
the Vedics were geniuses. I mean, they knew everything that we are striving to find out right now. They already knew.
It's like, hello, really?
Yeah, and you know how they knew? They looked within. That's how they knew. They looked within. Simple.
So simple. We're getting there. The needle is finally moving a little bit every centuries or so, and we're the warriors of light. You know, we came here to anchor. We're working on the front line, and really taking bullets. You know, but we're helping a lot of people going through what they're going through, literally, like physically, emotionally, sexually, physically, everything in between. What would be your final words for us today, if there is? Maybe not, maybe it's just hold space. Whatever it is that you're called to do now. Perhaps it is word, perhaps it's a song, perhaps it's here.
I would love to invite anybody who watches to take a breath, close their eyes, and ask themselves, how would I like to feel? How would I like to feel today? Receive a word, receive a feeling. You may not be able to put it into words, just receive it. And then just to allow that to be your mantra, so that when you feel challenged or doubtful or uncertain, come back to your feeling, come back to your word, come back to your breath, and then open your eyes and choose it.
I love you, Rhian. Thank you.
I love you too. Thank you so much.
Such a gift to me, to all of us. Thank you for all of you who are watching the show and continue to watch the show to inspire you. But this was so powerful, beautiful, enlightened, just incredible. I am looking forward to visit with you more and more and more, and to share you. Oh, this is going to be amazing as we fly and glide away on that flow and that dance. So beautiful. Thank you from the bottom of my soul and heart.
Thank you.
Very special, very special. Send you a love and light, respect, gratitude, and choose, as Rhian just said to us, choose the way you want to feel so you can be the creator of your bliss. With that, divine blessings, my friends. Thank you for seeing us, watching the show, and we'll see you very, very soon. Sat Nam. Namaste.
Namaste.